You ready to record a podcast with me?
I am ready.
Akvile Defazio, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. So I think that it's been a while since we've recorded a podcast together, and I can't remember if I asked you what you were like in high school.
No, I don't think you have.
Great.
We've talked about many things, but not that.
Let's bring this just a little bit closer here. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah, we should be good. And we'll edit all this stuff, so don't even worry. That's what makes me happy now is like we have great editors and we can mess up as much as we want.
Okay. I'll try not to, though. Don't want to give them more work.
Yeah, right. So what were you like in high school?
I was a wallflower to most. I was very timid, but with my close group of friends, I was goofy, fun, caring, helpful, and loved to dance and go party.
I love that. What were you dancing to?
I was going to raves mostly.
Nice.
And dancing to house music, break beats, going to hip hop shows, and then getting really into drum and bass.
Nice. So raves like today, I feel, because that was a while ago. When you were in high school, what was that now? It's been 20 years for me. So
yeah. I just went to my 20-year reunion this summer.
Yeah.
So also 20 years.
That's crazy. Doesn't feel like that long. We're getting there though.
Yes. It's a trip.
Yeah. So what were the raves like back then? Was this like truly like in a warehouse just cleared out?
Different venues. I actually started going to raves when I was 13, so I think that was maybe a little bit before high school. Yeah, they were just whatever kind of venue people can lock down, get some DJs together. I ended up DJing at a few of them, which was really fun. But my favorite one was on a naval battleship when I lived in Buffalo, New York, and the party crew booked it, but only part of the upper deck. And it was like, it's a historical ship in Buffalo, New York, where you can do tours during the day, but we weren't supposed to go anywhere else on the ship. But I think some mischievous ravers got through looking for certain things and opened some doors. And next thing I know, we were underneath the deck going through little tiny hallways. And then the party got shut down almost immediately after that happened, and the power went out at like 5 a.m. But the sun was just starting to come up, and it was my favorite DJ playing at the time. So it was like a very quick, amazing core memory in my life. But then it's like, oh, it's time to go home.
This sounds like really underground to me. Like when you tell me that story, I imagine like there's like a little roadie crew just like smuggling the speakers in and all the equipment in. Was it kind of like that?
Yes. Wow. And dragging big bags and big boxes of vinyl because it was before CDJs. So you brought what you were going to play. Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of fun. I never really got to, I think maybe it wasn't really my scene or anything like that, but the rave scene wasn't something that I got to get involved in. Now I kind of want to.
It's not too late.
I know, but it seems so exhausting now.
Yes. Well, I know we're at a different point in our lives, and it's hard to sneak out to say you're going to go party all night when there are babies at home.
There are babies at home. So we've known each other for a while, and I think that when we first met, were you pregnant with your daughter or?
No, not yet.
Not yet, right?
Yeah, I think we became friends on what, Twitter 8 years ago? 6 or 7?
Was it Twitter?
I think so.
I believe you.
Probably.
Yeah.
And then in person, we met for the first time 5 years ago, I think we've established. And then that was probably right before I got pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think that we actually met in person only 3 years ago.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Because it was January 2021 is when I came up to SLO.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we've hung out and had many conversations in between, so I think it makes it seem like it's longer.
I mean, it's worth noting. Jonathan.
Behind the scenes.
Just working it super hard. I love it. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate you. And the light.
That's dedication to the craft.
Yeah. Who are we more impressed with? Us for not breaking character until the last minute, or Jonathan for doing that like silently the whole time? That's pretty amazing. So we didn't know each other when you were pregnant, and like things changed back then. I'm curious, as to what that first like 6 months was like for you, owning your advertising agency and being a new parent at the same time. Like, what was the strategy to keep that afloat?
Well, since I'm intentionally small, it was just me and a few contractors that I needed to figure out how to keep my business going and enjoy that newborn time with my baby during a mat leave. So about 6 months before my delivery date, I put together a group of people that I've worked with, trust, that are reliable. I've seen the work that they do, and asked if they'd be willing to all take a few of my clients to cover for me. And they all said yes. And I put together a plan for them, introduced them to the clients. Really just tried to make everything as seamless for everybody and for the clients not to worry while I was out, just know that they're in good hands. And everything worked out wonderfully. The clients were really pleased, and it came back, and I didn't have any fires to put out, which was a relief because I was, still the mother of a very small human. So
Yeah.
trying to get back to work, but I felt like I was able to take some of that time off and not have to worry about work, which is my other baby.
Yeah. Right. And when you were working, when you came back or off of mat leave and working and parenting at the same time, like how did you manage that? Oof. Asking for a friend.
Well, then COVID happened. So it was a very, it was tough. We didn't really have much help. So Zane and I were switching every 2 hours. Mm-hmm. Who was working, who was watching her. And within 2 hours, you're probably just getting into your groove with most work things. So it was very long days, very long weeks. We worked weekends just to catch up on things or just stay afloat. We ended up having to drop a lot of other personal things, but work was a priority so we could keep living how we were living and accomplish our goals. But it was just somebody who was always with the baby. And maybe it made it a little bit easier with COVID because we didn't have to commit to other things, but that and also had tons of downsides to where we didn't have the help that we had hoped for and, catch our breaths a little bit.
Yeah.
But we survived it.
Yeah. And I would go ahead and say, like, is thriving too much to say?
Oh, we were just surviving. Did I say thriving?
No, I'm saying now thriving.
Oh, yeah. Now it's like when we moved back down here and she started preschool and somebody watched her for 4 hours, we're like, oh my goodness, look at all this time that we have. What do we do with ourselves? And just getting into the work groove and going up even more above and beyond for our clients, but also starting to incorporate some self-care back in, like maybe going for a walk. It's not just work. She's being taken care of. And now that she's full-time in school, we get more time, and it's kind of like we think back about how little time we had for anything else, and it was just surviving that now we feel like we can conquer the world pretty much.
Yeah. Wow. I think it's incredible what you've done because, I've only been doing this for like 4.5 months now, or what would they say, like 16 weeks? I don't know how it works.
4 months.
Yeah. 4.5 months now. And like some months seem like a year. It's like a grind.
Yeah.
I can't even picture like work life without him now. And I don't mean that romantically. I mean that in like it's consumed so much of my life. Like imagining something outside of it is different. So the fact that you got through that and then to the place where, okay, you're at daycare, you're at preschool now, it's letting me know that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Because I want to say that maybe up until this point, I don't personally remember you like ever taking on like babysitters or dropping them off or, dropping off somewhere so that you can work to the day. It's always been, you've been work desk here, child here.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Or in the other room if he's watching her. But yeah, now we have babysitters and we have school and it's weird. Like it's still weird dropping her off, but savor the time that you have now because it does go by very quickly. And then you're going to be like, wait, the office is quiet. Where is he? Sure. And he's going to be at school. Because when we dropped her off at school and we weren't sure what to do with all that extra time, but we're like, oh, we can actually do more work, run some errands, maybe even go out on a lunch date together. That we dropped her off and she runs in and we're like, oh, well, now what? Like she barely even said bye to us.
That's so funny. I for multiple reasons, I would say that the life maybe we chose, owning our business and then choosing to work with our, minus COVID, choosing to work with our children present, that sort of thing, like that's not for everybody. Yeah. Right. For you, what have been some of your favorite parts of doing it though?
Oh man, I think it was just for me, just becoming a parent and reprioritizing a lot of things in my life that, before I would always apologize and say, oh, like, I'm sorry that, I'm overly punctual to a fault, but if anything happens and I have meetings back to back and maybe a minute late, I'm very apologetic and I feel terrible about it. I know life happens, but with her, I felt like when she was on calls, like I didn't have to apologize as much, and it got me out of that habit and to realize that more people are understanding than I think I thought. and it's not a bad thing. And I feel like I just incorporate her into my life, and I don't really, I changed it a little bit for her, but I can like bring her into what our life is and then have her adapt because everything's new to her. So she fit in very well, and, you know, had to mute and unmute a number of times during babbling or, you know, crying or whatever it was. But clients were understanding, and we just did the best that we could. And I think everyone tries to do the best that they can, regardless whether they have kids or not. But I think it's made me a little bit more flexible and less apologetic.
Yeah. Do you feel like that would have been the case had you not become a parent, like right in the middle of COVID?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's still an adjustment. It's a huge life adjustment to keep this little human happy, thriving, alive, fed, everything. But yeah, I think it kind of just took that really quickly, very far, of like where the boundaries are and what we have to do what we need to do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I can't really remember a time before. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Actually, we weren't doing as many Zoom calls before COVID. It was just like conference lines.
Yeah.
Right? Man, I miss those days. Conference lines were so sweet.
Yeah.
You could just be like anywhere. And now it's like I have to be like somewhat kept. And
yeah. I've been working remotely for 12 years now.
Yeah.
And I have never done my makeup. I don't wear a lot of makeup to begin with, but it's still a process. It adds to the routine. And I've never had to put on my face as much as I did during COVID than before it. I'm like, oh, everybody just wants to be on video. And I know people are like, oh, you don't have to be on video, but I feel like everyone's on there. There's certain expectations, or maybe it just helps build rapport when you see each other more. So I did it for the sake of that, just to keep seeing people during that time. But there were some days where I was dressed up from the waist up, and maybe there were some yoga pants.
That's the best. I wish that I'm actively working on, bringing conference calls back and phone calls back. If I send out a Calendly link, like I purposely like remove the Zoom a lot of times, just because it's like, hey, like we can do this just on the phone again. Because I feel like it takes up a lot more time because you have to be sitting at a desk when you could have been, I don't know, on your way to the bank or whatever it was before a conference call, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those types of things. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we can get it like took this weird turn in terms of like efficiency, I think. So for those that might not know, like Akvile, you are a gangster when it comes to running paid social ads, which is awesome. There aren't very many people I trust when I look to it, like for advice on it. And if I'm staying up on anything, it's because of an article that you put out, which is awesome. You're in your business, like managing so much of it all the time, but you happen to be, in my opinion, staying on top of all the trends, the latest updates, those types of things. How do you do both?
Oh, I don't know. I have to, so I do, because if I'm not staying up to date, then why would somebody want to work with me? So why put myself out there? So I think about it maybe in reverse of like, if I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, then I want to just be the best that I can at my job so I can truly help my clients, because when they win, I win, we win. Plus I find it interesting.
Yeah.
It keeps me on my toes. I really want to stay ahead. It gives me something to share with others, to talk about, to think about, and to just, our industry moves so quickly that I just want to be, thinking in a future forward manner.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of people who get so caught up in working in the day-to-day that they forget to take a step back and look at what's going on around them. And at least from the seat that I have, it seems like you do a better job than most. And I say that because I kind of know to a certain extent what your day-to-day looks like. You're not just sitting there reading articles. You're actually doing the work, which I think is really fantastic. When it comes to serving your clients, you've always had this mindset better than anybody of, I want to serve the client. How can we help them? Like whatever it is, it always comes down to like that question for you. How can we help them? And I don't think that that's something that is like inherent in a lot of business owners or even a lot of professionals, is how can we help them? A lot of times the question is like, what do I have to do now? You know what I mean? And I'm curious to know, like, is that something inherent to you or something that you learned over time to get better? Like, where does that mentality come from?
Interesting you asked that. My mom just asked me that last week, and she's like, I didn't bring you up this way because we emigrated, we didn't have anything, and she was working and I was home alone a lot. And I I don't know. Sometimes feel like it makes me a bad business person, but in the way that you just said it, okay,
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
good business person for actually caring about my clients. But in the other ways, I find myself wanting to do more that's not paid. So like, I really want to work with certain nonprofits, and I get more excited about that. And I just really like seeing people succeed because I feel like it's fulfilling for me. It brings me joy, and I feel like I've just always been that way, that even though when we had nothing, like I still started volunteering places where I could since middle school, and my mom's like, "Why are you doing this? Where did you learn this from?" Like, I don't know. Has always thought that was interesting because that was not something that I grew up around because it wasn't available. We grew up in war, and
Yeah.
volunteering really wasn't the thing. You're just basically trying to survive or get out. So I think that maybe that's just my funny way of, we've had some people help us along the years and throughout my life and my career at different stages, you being one of them in the last couple of years in a big way. And I feel like that's just my way to give back, is just I help others and truly care. And I'm fortunate, sorry, long story long. I just feel like I'm grateful to get to this point in my work that I can be more selective of who I work with. And it's not just money. It's like, who do I really want to work with? Like, how will I enjoy my day? Can I help their business? And also it'll help my business since I'm making some money from it. But money's not the first thing in my mind of like, how do I lock in a client?
Yeah, man. The thing is, like, you mean it. And people say that. That's the line, is like, oh, I want to help people. It's like, sweet. So does everybody. But like, you really mean it, to the point where it's like, sometimes when we're in our interactions, like I don't know if you intentionally do it or it's just you doing it. You'll center me in our conversations and be like, yeah, how can we help them? I'm like, dang, dude, like, dang.
Well, you do that for me too. I feel like
Really?
every conversation, oh yeah.
I don't
You even
know.
beat me to it sometimes. I'm like, yeah.
Maybe because I'm gonna beat her to the helpline real quick. Like, just kidding. No, but seriously, it centers me. It's so incredible to see, and I think, of course, only you know the inner workings of your business, but to be able to do it and to, bring a child into the world, make some of the personal progress that you've made, whether it's buying a home or anything like that, and running a business for 12 years, that's no joke. And so, I don't know if you take a step back enough to like recognize that is a big deal, and people kind of dream to be in your position. But I mean, it's something that I look up to quite a bit.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah. Let's switch gears a little bit. So I think we'll be able to release this before holiday, which is nice. Actually, we should be able to release it by next week. It's only Wednesday, right? The thing is, Jonathan's giving us what are you talking about? It's October. Like, holiday in marketing, I feel like starts like end of September, like beginning of October. Every year Black Friday starts like a week earlier. You know what I mean? I'm on a client call where they're like, I think we should start Black Friday on November 13th this year. I'm like, well, that's Monday. And like, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's crazy what happens, and everybody's just trying to like get the most revenue out of it, like whatever the case may be. And so I'd be curious, to hear from you, like, what are some of those? Actually, I'm gonna run a couple ideas by you, and you can say bad idea or good idea. One, shutting off all your ad spend up until actual Black Friday and turning it on and dumping all your ad spend for November into that one day or one weekend.
No.
And why is that? I know the answer to this, by the way.
If you turn things, okay. So if you're running on a really large ad platform, if you launch things right then and there, for the last few years, every time it's Black Friday week, things don't get out of review, get stuck in review. There are a number of bugs that happen. So it's very rarely a smooth launch. So if you start sooner, you can get through review processes. You can have all your ducks in a row, just flip the switch or schedule it. But before that, if you start advertising sooner, you can actually get more results at a lower cost because CPMs or cost per impression is going to go up tremendously. The advertising landscape changes temporarily, but really drastically until about, say, December 20th, maybe. Keep things running because also things need to stay out of the learning phase and you'll get better results. There's some caveats where you can be stuck in the learning phase and do just fine. But if you don't keep feeding the machine, it's not going to feed you back results.
Right. Totally. I'm not sure how much do you deal with your clients. I know you do a lot of the ad buying, but are you helping them formulate like promotions that might work better than others, things like that? Okay,
yes.
Cool. So I'm of the belief that when it comes to Black Friday, it's really like just tell us what the percentage discount is. You know what I mean? Like big and bold. And that's kind of it. I'll pause there and let you respond.
Yes, make it easy to shop. Don't make tiered sales. If you spend $500, you get 10% off. If you spend $750, you get,
Gosh.
We've had some clients over the past, and we've seen other brands doing that. It just makes it more complicated for people. And they're like, well, how do I save the most? But then I have to start doing math. So try to do a site-wide sale, maybe 15 or 20% off. Or, we have some brands that don't do any sales just because they have retailer contracts. Mm-hmm. So they might offer a free gift with purchase. So that's also been a big incentive for a lot of their fans to buy from them during that time, where they might not get a discount, but they'll get something from it that maybe a true avid fan of that brand might appreciate, having a one-off gift from them. Just make it easy and seamless.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know why people overthink this all the time. They want to get all crafty. I'm like, not today.
Yeah, no
Not
promo codes, just like site-wide, make it easy.
I mean, even worse, like promo codes. It's so crazy. Have you noticed at least the last, I want to say like 3 or 4 like Black Fridays, like it goes like nuts up until about noon, and then it kind of like starts tearing down. And you're like, ooh, I should start pulling back on spend now. It's not going to get back up to 7x, like all that stuff.
Yeah. Keep it rolling through the weekend. Check in. Don't tweak it too much, just because the more we touch, the more things seem to not do as well, which is counterintuitive, but that's just how it works these days. And I don't know. Start early. We're having a lot of brands are going November 1st this year, just to get ahead of those. No rush. Just to get ahead of those high CPMs.
A couple days away.
Yeah. If you can, launch a lead gen campaign to be like, hey, get on our email subscriber list to be the first to know about our big sale. We're starting to run a lot of campaigns in the last month that are just generic, like shop our big sale now. Mm-hmm. So then that way you can keep optimizing and building up all that data. And then you can just turn it on and off throughout the year once you run big sales, instead of launching specific, Black Friday, Memorial Day, whatever it might be. And, we're going to hopefully see some success with that. Still early to tell, but new strategy this year for some accounts on that front. That's
exciting. Man, it's crazy how much it changes. Because at one point I felt as if, manipulating it maybe, or making optimizations on a semi-daily basis was the thing that you wanted to do. I remember there was a period in time where it was like, okay, 7 o'clock in the morning, and make sure that everything isn't like falling apart. 12 o'clock, like we're going to do some cutbacks. And then by the end of the day, do we shut down this ad set or not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now it's like, you can't really do that as much, huh?
You can, but I feel like it's more often than not, it's not going to end as well as you'd like it. Mm-hmm. So just let the system do its thing, run the auction. Maybe if Sunday, between Black Friday and Cyber Monday, maybe you're starting to see like not great results in the morning, pull back, but then ramp back up for Monday. I think that we've conditioned consumers to start waiting a little bit longer, and they're like, oh, I'll just hold out till November to do any shopping. Yeah. Oh, maybe I'll wait closer to Black Friday. Maybe there's a bigger deal. Oh, maybe Cyber Monday is gonna be the ultimate deal since I'm shopping online. So I think people are more patient, especially in this economic climate. So don't pull back before Cyber Monday.
Have you been able to spend a lot of time running TikTok ads in this last year?
Last year, yes. Last 3-4 months, not as much. Just depends on who we're working with and where the budgets went, but we've seen a lot more success on Meta and how it's AI, or not AI, but the algorithm has changed this year, plus the new AI features. So we're seeing a lot more success there. So the clients that we're working on currently, there's one that's still just doing brand awareness on TikTok, but in terms of driving sales, Q4 is big elsewhere. Yeah.
We've seen kind of a similar thing as well, where it's like the actual purchases aren't happening as much. However, like with influencers, we see that happen a little bit more, because people are actually sitting down and watching a video there, and if they're trusted enough, that's going to happen. But the ads portion of it, similar. We're looking for engagement, looking to truthfully like build followers for like TikTok's accounts, like that sort of thing, and that's where we saw a lot of success. You've mentioned today, because we've been able to hang out for a couple hours now, a couple times, how you've been relying a little bit more on Meta's AI to help produce results from you. Or for you. Is that similar to like the Core 5 or the Power 5 like system have you heard of this that they set up?
Yeah. A little different. And the AI stuff is a lot newer within Meta. And there's no way to tell if it's working great or not, because they don't have breakout reporting yet, which is super. So it's kind of like, I don't know, try it, see how it goes, but there's no direct correlation. Yeah. But I think it's just the start. They just launched it in May, and then only more accounts recently got it, but they're doing a full global rollout by the end of the year.
Dang. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
sweet. Similar to like I feel like Google, like the more we go into Google, the less they want you to mess with everything and just rely on whatever they're doing. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, what do you think that means for people like us?
Changes.
For sure.
But we're used to being on our toes and
Yeah.
pivoting. I think it's just we're gonna have to redirect our focus a little bit. From before, it was like I felt like, I don't know if maybe it's just me, but I feel like a lot of us pride ourselves in doing hyper segmentation of like, ooh, which audience works, or maybe I'm gonna find something like a little gold mine in this particular one. Where now it's like, the system needs a larger opportunity pool, so we have to go broader, and there's less levers to pull in the ad set level. So I think a lot of that's migrating over to the focus being, the ads are you're targeting now. You're targeting everybody, but who does your ad speak to really? So I think copy and creatives, especially video, are going to really play a larger part going forward.
Yeah.
So I think you're in a good spot with your agency.
Man, it's tough though. Like no
Yeah.
matter what, like putting out a ton of creative is hard to do. You know what I mean? Especially I feel as if we were talking earlier about ugly ads, and I know that like the trend behind that, but at the same time, I do feel like there's this like weird like inflection, like this weird like apex where it's like, okay, everybody was an influencer, then everybody's doing UGC come COVID, and then that's what it is. And then now it's come around to where it's like, okay, like the creme de la creme stayed up there, and it's still that person that's just like making the best tomato soup ever.
Yeah.
But their video from their iPhone looks like it was done by Scorsese. You know what I mean? Like it's nuts. You've noticed this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And now that's UGC. I'm like, I don't know. It's not my user generated content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's tough, and we see things like that performing really well. But even like some of the more campy things, I guess you could say, or maybe ugly ads, is like those creators still know what they're doing.
Oh yeah. Well, they're tapped in their audiences. They're into what they're doing, so they run with it.
Yeah.
As long as it works.
Yeah. Man, it's been crazy out there. It's been fun to like at least, I don't know, see some of the ebbs and flows of like paid social as it goes on. And you're hitting your 9-year mark this Saturday, you mentioned. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And we're somewhere around there too. And just like, remember when we had to convince people to do this?
Yes. Remember Facebook Power Editor?
Yeah. And now those people are now like kind of like spitting game at us. And like, now it's like, we're trying to prove as to whether or not we're good enough type of thing. It's like, wait a minute, a couple of years ago, this was the other way around. Power Editor, yeah, I barely remember that actually. I was back in the like pretty much all you could do is boost a post type of thing, and then like you could redeem an offer, and that was basically it. I want to say,
Yeah.
the good old days.
The good old days. It was like the Wild West back when.
It was awesome when all we had to do was like publish, because we did organic social to start. It's like it was awesome when that's all we had to do. And then but I think by the time I figured out, I need to like get a photographer and graphic designers, it was like, then ads like exploded, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, good time to enter.
So are you fully caught up on Billions?
I am. Are you?
I'm fully caught up. Do you watch Billions? You got to watch Billions. Oof.
You must.
All right. Did you start when it started?
No. I started maybe 6 months ago.
Oh, really? And you're all caught up.
Yep.
I'm excited for you because there was a lot of excitement in this. And I remember like one of the first episodes, I was like, I'm going to watch this show forever, because I was just in that mindset that for whatever reason I wanted to be a billionaire. When Axe and his like first wife or whatever,
Yes.
right, down the airplane, and they kiss each other goodbye, and they go into their separate private jets. I was like, that's where I want to be in life. I don't want to do that really anymore. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be mad, I don't think, but I don't want to do that very much anymore. I'm curious to learn from you though. Like, what do you really think about this last season? Let's start with
It's bittersweet. I'm not ready for the show to end because I love watching it. I love the storylines. Michael Prince. I loved Axe, and I wanted to see it through with Wendy, but I don't know how it's going to end. I keep thinking of different scenarios. I'm like, somebody has to win, but the trend throughout the whole series has been, spoilers, but somebody always wins at the end of the season. I'm like, who's going to ultimately win, or is it going to be both Chuck and Axe? I'm like, it can't be Prince, because I feel like a lot of people are disappointed about that.
Yeah.
The vibe changed, but I also know why Axe left the show, or do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
his wife passed, right?
yeah, and she was on Peaky Blinders, and she was fantastic too. And I get it, he went back to England, so they had to figure something else. I feel like they pivoted well, but it changed the vibe of the show in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. The season before this one, it was really hard to accept Mike Prince as a bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this year, I would say that like arc in his character, they actually did a really good job of, you know, because I was like, how does this make sense? And so they did a good job of that.
Yeah.
Where I personally feel like they're lacking in general is like there's something weird about the writing, because now I feel like every line is like a one up as to who knows their like history, like pop culture better.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cringy sometimes. Like we can't even get through like one sentence like this.
A lot of quotes.
A lot of quotes.
A lot of quotes. I'm like,
and now they're just pulling them. I don't know. There was somebody that was like, I'm like, why are you even quoting this person? Now I can't remember it. I should have wrote that down. So from that perspective, I feel like it's gotten a little cringy, to be honest.
yeah.
Right? Because before, it was whenever they did something like that, there was weight behind it. I felt like it was really impactful, and it was really like, you know, it kind of added depth to that character. I want to say like it was mainly Rhodes doing it, and he was always flexing his knowledge and it almost made him seem like a jerk. Which I think was the point.
Yes.
It's like, oh yeah, I'm smarter than everybody in the room type of thing. And now that everybody does it, it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of gross.
Everyone does do it.
Everybody does do it. Yeah.
How did you feel about this last episode? Because I feel like I liked the angle it went, but I feel like it, to be the second to last episode, that it didn't, the suspense wasn't there. It was just kind of like a little back and forth, and they're like, oh, well, I already did this. Well, I did that. And I get it. But I feel like to be the second to last series episode, that it kind of like fell flat at the end. And it's like, oh, well, I do want to know what happens in the last episode. But
remember those like Christmas episodes on like Friends or did you ever watch any sitcoms or anything like that?
A little bit, yeah.
When really the Christmas episode was just recapping all the other Christmas episodes. And to me, I felt like that was always a cop out. I was like, you weren't going to tell us a story. Like, and so here I felt like that was kind of, I think they did it a little bit better, but I got that same sort of image where it's just like, oh, you didn't like bring out any of these whole storylines for another season. And of course, like, you know, who knows whatever is going on at Showtime or if people cared about it. But I didn't really care for how the story was told. And that kind of sucked. But I was more disappointed, I think, in the end of it. Like it felt like super flat at the end, right? Super anticlimactic. And it was weird to see all those people defeated. I'm assuming you're rooting for like Rhodes and Axe and Wendy and that side, right?
100%.
And I would venture to say that most of the people watching are rooting for the original characters, type of thing. But it was just weird. And now it's almost like, okay, so what are you gonna do now? Like, how's this all gonna make sense? Where's the bomb planted?
Yeah, I was like, someone's going to jail or someone's gonna die.
Yeah, like where's the bomb planted? And it's like, are you really gonna? What's that governor's name? The lady on there. Whatever.
I just know her from CSI New York.
Okay. So, but are you really going to have her like planted a seed and this is all a joke and somebody double cross somebody again?
Oh, maybe.
Maybe. But then I'd be like, I want to see Axe like go crazy. Like when he came back in that one episode where, or I think it's the episode before last, like at the end, I was like, I think I started like texting you like, dude, you got to catch up because I have to get this off my chest. So hopefully they wrap it up well, because this is the last episode coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
But I think you might be onto something with her maybe backstabbing Prince, because she did say she wants to be president. She's only going to do it if she gets to be president. She doesn't want the runner-up ticket. So maybe she'll win. And she's like, see?
Does Axe win in that situation?
He did offer her that position.
I'm trying to think as to whether or not that works.
Yeah.
So how's it working with your husband at home as well? Shout to Z.
Hi. Really great. We've been working together remotely together in an office for 9 years, maybe 10.
Maybe I didn't realize that because he recently started his own business as well, right?
Yeah, but we used to work remotely at a company together where we originally met, and then he was working for another agency and he worked remotely because the agency was in New York. So we've been working out of the same room for many, many years. Just earlier this year, he built his office and we are now in different offices, which is great because we're like, oh, I don't have to hear you like chewing food or being on calls. And it's been fun, but also a little bit lonely now because I'm like, oh, I don't feel another warm body in this room. Like he's over there if I need to go talk to him. But it's still going really well. But now we get each other's offices to visit.
How do you not chop each other's head off?
I don't know. We've just always been good about communicating
Mm,
and just knowing when there needs to just do their thing. And we usually didn't even talk during the work day. Just,
really?
yeah, just,
That's pretty cool.
yeah. And then we just catch up after work as if, we were to have a commute and not work in the same place. We just touch base on our day. Maybe if we ended up being hungry and go to the kitchen at the same time and share a lunch and briefly catch up on the morning. But
It's like catching each other in the cafeteria.
yeah, we just don't have a commute. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice. I mean, we've been able to hang out our families together now a couple times, and it's always so pleasant over there. And there used to always be this notion, I feel like, where like relationships are hard. I personally don't believe that. My relationship is not hard.
Yeah.
And I might make some people upset, but I feel like if your relationship is hard, you might be in the wrong relationship. Now,
Yeah.
when we hang out with you guys, it doesn't seem like your relationship is hard, and I think that's why we all get along. And so what were some of those like prerequisites, or how do you like maintain that like easiness? I know communication is always like the thing, but
Yeah.
is it just an amazing amount of like chemistry that you just don't get on each other's nerves? You don't like bite at each other's, you know what I mean?
I think both, but I think it's just maturity. I think you get to a point where, like, we've both been in other serious relationships where it's like what was good and what was, something that I didn't want or didn't like or wanted to work on. And thankfully, we both want to be in this relationship together. So we just, it's not always a perfect day, but we communicate through it and say, hey, like, you did this and it affected me this way. Like, maybe next time we can present it like this. And we listen and we do that next time. So I think that we've just built up a good cadence that we're on the same team. Like, we both have our bad days together. We have them separately, but we're on the same page and have the same goals and same trajectory for our family, but also support each other's individual lives. So I don't know. I think the chemistry and just the communication, really, you nailed it on that.
Yeah. I love seeing that. What's like, I just love seeing it in other couples. You know what I mean? It breaks my heart when I see couples fighting for a lot of different reasons. In my head, I'm just like, I don't think that's how it's supposed to be.
You should be happy with the person you spend most of your life with or most of your day with or whatever.
It makes sense that way, especially if they go as far as to get married. It's like, this didn't happen like after you got married. You would have maybe figured some of this out beforehand. I forget. Did you watch that movie Bad or Old Dads on Netflix?
Not yet.
Okay. I think it's funny.
Yeah. Okay.
But but it's like, and now I'm like watching this show, and this woman's like, the wife is like telling the husband's like, oh, you really got to figure out your anger issues and go to therapy for this stuff. I'm like, you have a 5-year-old child, which means I'm like making up this whole story in my head. You have a 5-year-old child, which means you've maybe been married for maybe at least 5 years or like whatever, but together for at least 5 years. And like, how is this a thing that's like now? How are you just bringing this up now? She's acting as if she's surprised, like, you married this man. And then, which is funny because in my head, I'm like, how did you not know this getting into it? But then later on in the story, it addresses this, and it's like, or in the movie rather, it addresses this, and she's like, yeah, he wanted to fight a whole line of, marching band people on our first date when we were 17. I was like, oh, so you did know. This is your fault. I'm just kidding. I was like, you know what I mean? But it's like, how long have you and Z been together?
10 years?
10 years?
Sorry, 11. 11 years.
Do you feel like either of you have changed since you've...
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Well,
but
at the core of like who we are, I don't think
right.
so, but I feel like we refine certain parts of ourselves as we go through life experiences.
Yeah.
But I agree. You do see somebody, but I feel like, when you fall in love with somebody or into somebody, like you say like, oh, well, that's not a big of a deal. And then I think it just compounds for a lot of couples over the years until that little tiny thing turns into a bigger thing. And you might not be able to reconcile that anymore.
I don't know if this is like, well, it is called oversharing. Was there anything that like turned into like too much after the fact? Like the thing that you kind of scooted to the side?
No, but the two things when I first met him, I was like, you don't eat breakfast and you don't like coffee. I'm like, this is never going to work. And
just like coffee?
No.
Oh.
But I'm like, hey, if those are your two biggest pain points for me, what I want in a partner, I'm like, it's not too bad. He's had some coffees over the years.
It's like the opposite for me and Alexa. It was like, oh, you love breakfast and you drink black coffee. Let's get married. Like,
perfect.
It's worked out so far. Yeah, it's really interesting. I wonder. I'm thinking of doing like a short series of like working parents, and and having you and Z come and talk about like what your experience is like versus like me and Alexa's type of thing, and then Chris and Sarah and their whole thing, because you know they're going to be parents soon and all that. I think that I don't know. I think that there's a lot of great things that we can bring to the table, all of us together, for that. So perhaps this whole episode was a precursor to that. Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. It could be awesome. Well, Ak, this has been such an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time, coming down here, hanging out, and everything. If somebody wants to connect with you, how can they find you?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back. I also like this whole seated in person
This
thing
is
compared
kinda
to the
sweet,
virtual
right?
ones we've done over the years. And you can find me at Akvile Defazio on Twitter /X, also on Threads, or just akvertise.com.
I love that. Okay, last question for the day. We obviously have like our favorite sandwich place that we go to when you're down here, and I'm pretty pumped on that. In your area, what is the one restaurant that you would take? Like that's where you're taking all your friends that are coming from out of town. Where are you bringing them to in your area?
Bardot. It's in Claremont, California. Great restaurant, awesome patio, extensive, delicious menu, and tons of great cocktails.
What kind of food is Bardot?
Has a little bit of French overlap, but you get everything from like your typical brunch on the weekend to really good salads, burgers galore, and some steaks. I know you like steaks.
Burgers,
so yes.
you say?
Oh yes, burgers.
I love burgers.
I think they have like 10 burgers.
We'll have to check that one out.
Definitely.
To the listener, thank you so much for your time and attention. We really appreciate it. And to the viewers too, for all 5 of you viewers, because I don't know if YouTube is popping off quite yet. But if you loved the episode, we would dig a 5-star review. If you didn't like it that much, feel free to stick it to us, but subscribe anyway, because we're going to have a ton of incredible people just like Akvile Defazio back on the show. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Sweet.